Shalom Akim, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rawakadash. This is Brother Nash DC Cap with another short lesson, to keep the Akim, edify in the name of Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rawakadash, this journey to World War III is it's a very interesting journey. You just see how the Lord has lined things up, and then you just have to give all praises to the Lord Yahweh Shem Yahushai, because we know our salvation is at hand. And then you see how the nations are interacting with each other on different levels. All the animosity, that's been displayed, on the nightly news, in the news articles, and all these forms of media. So it's always good to understand, man, that the Lord Yahweh Shem Yahushai is setting this agenda in place, so things will go according to his will. Okay. So as you see, man, it's the majority of this, see, all these wars, man, the Edomites are always a part of it. They always have a hand in it. If they're not the ones fighting the wars, they will have to finance it, providing intel and all that stuff, and add weapons and add capital, so that's what it boils down to, man. These Amalekites, they understand, the business of war. But now, they're scared to make a move, So that's why they have to latch on to all these foreign nations, take control of America, take control of England, the EU, take control of any Arab nation that has a weakness in there, even these so-called Asian nations, so it's just that simple, man. Even Russian organizations, whatever, the Lord Yahweh Shema Shai has put in place for them to accomplish. They accomplish militarily. They're not, they're not there, but they get the weapons from the United States and all these other EU nations that supply them with, with machinery and all this technology. So it's that simple, man. Amalek cannot go to war by itself. It has to rely on other so-called world powers, you know, to have a favorable outcome. So that's why, it's Amalekites, man, they're pushing hard, man. So I'll just play this video, because they don't really want to go, they don't really want to go to war, but the Mosai will let it happen. The Mosai will have to force their hand to go to war, because now they'll have no excuse, because they're already in it. There's no turning back.
Israeli police have clashed with ultra-Orthodox.
And this is a constant, issue with the Amalekites in the land of Israel, man. These Edomites, man. They have an issue, man, with their politicians. Messing around with their so-called lifestyle. Their religious lessons. Their religious, objectives or whatever goals they have, man. So you hear about the protests going over there in the land of Israel. It's because they're fed up. They're fed up with their government. They're upset. They start moving over to other countries. They go to France. They go to England. Some go back to Russia, Belgium. Some go to Africa. Some even go to all these Middle Eastern countries. Some come to America, South America, because you got large populations of Amalekites in Brazil. They're in Mexico. They're in Colombia, Argentina. Italy, Spain, wherever. Because they're tired of all the shenanigans they have to deal with, and they don't want to, sign up, to join the military because they think it's all a bunch of hogwash, So, by the end of the day, man, Lord Yahweh Shema Shai, we frustrate their plans, frustrate the plans of the elites. The so-called Amalekites, that dress in all their so-called religious apparel, don't want to join the military. That means the nation, so-called state of Israel, is going to be at a disadvantage. They won't have the manpower, to mount an attack, to be on the offensive or to have a defense against these other nations. So that's why they got to latch on to America. Latch on to France, latch on to Germany, latch on to the UK to have have them back them up. So that's what it boils down to, man. The scripture talks about counting the cost.
Jews angry at cuts in funding to their theological schools and a crackdown on those trying to avoid military service.
So they're basically cutting financial aid. They're cutting their welfare money, you know, to attend so-called what is it, Hefshiber institutions. They got I believe they got one in New York where they do their religious studies, whatever. So it's just like a madrasa. They have in the Middle East where you have those young children learning the Quran, learning all these aspects of Islamic or Arabic poetry, whatever. So just what it is, man. This so-called Amalekites, man, they don't want no, they don't want no parts of being in the army, man. Cause they see all the corruption. You see them protesting against so-called leaders. You see them with big signs, talking about the Zionists are doing this, they're doing that, they're destabilizing the whole world. We can't be like that. We want peace. We want peace, but hey, there can't be peace on the earth, man. When Amalek is in the the rulership seat, when Amalek is in the seat of authority, so that's why there's so much upheaval in the world, man. It's because Esau's rulership is a mess. It's total chaos.
Trying to avoid military service. Protests were held across the country. One soldier told the demonstrators what he thought of them. I haven't seen my wife and baby boy for 2 weeks. Join the army, be a man there, not here. As demonstrators danced and
Yeah, so that's a division among the people, man. They're upset. You have the young women too. They have to join the military. So it's mandatory. It's compulsory. It's not what you have here in the United States of calling it a volunteer army. But very soon here in the United States they have to make it mandatory. Because when I was young, when I applied for financial aid, I had to apply for selective service. So who knows, man? That paper might show up in the mail. I'm like, well, Barakataya, I was shy. Tawada for letting me know, man, that Esau needs buddies. But hey, that's not for the men of the Lord. The men of the Lord have no business wearing the uniforms of these militaries and all these institutions to oppress, and oppress the people and to carry out, the heart's desire of the elites. All right. So I get a quick precept here. This is from let me see if I could use the blue letter. Yeah, I don't really like to ramble on that much, but I just do my best to keep it simple in the spirit of the Lord Yahweh Shema Shai. All right. So this is from the book of Luke, chapter 14. All right. And it says from verse 28. I'll read a couple of verses. So it says, "For which of you intending to build a tower sitteth not down first and counted the cost, whether he have sufficient to finish it?" All right. And then it says in verse 29, "Lest happily after he hath laid the foundation and is not able to finish it, all that behold it shall begin to mock him." All right, saying this man began to build and was not able to finish. All right, so that's what Esau is gonna become, man. In these last days, man. It's gonna become a laughing stock. Even after World War III, when the nations are in captivity, When the Lord Yahweh shall deliver his people, the Israelites, from the four corners of the earth, these heathens, man, be laughing at these Edomites, man, that you had all these big ideas that you're gonna be you know, the world police, the most advanced civilization on the face of the earth. But you're in captivity now with us. You're breaking rocks, you're walking in the garden, breaking up the ground, picking potatoes, feeding the sheep and the ox, running away from lions, all that stuff, you know. So it's so hilarious, man. Just imagine that, man. And then you read verse 31 says, or what king going to make war against another king sitteth not down first and consulted whether he be able with 10,000 to meet him that cometh against him with 20,000. All right, so all the plans of Esau to come against the Lord Yahweh Shema Shai is going to fall to naught. It's going to come to naught. It's going to come crashing headlong. All right, because he doesn't have the resources, man. He doesn't have the spiritual power. He doesn't have the military might. Neither does he have the courage, to come against the Lord Yahweh Shema Shai. The Lord will have to, pump him up, letting, to let him get in the ring, but it's gonna be turned down. All right. So that's just the point there. I play the video. See how much is left on
Be
it.
a man there, not here. As demonstrators danced in the southern city of Ashdod, water cannon was also used.
Yeah. So that's the beginning of division, man. A deep division within the Amalekites, man. Because once his so-called Israelis attack Iran, it's gonna be total chaos, man. They won't be able to turn back. There'll be so much anger and frustration and violence in the street. They'll be chasing the so-called leaders in the Knesset, from neighborhood to neighborhood. Chasing down Mossad agents, chasing down soldiers. For not doing enough to prevent the attack, on Iran. So, for messing up the society and making things difficult for them, because as you can see, man, they don't want a war, but they want to enjoy, they want to enjoy their rulership, but it doesn't work that way, with the Lord Shema Shai. Even in the scriptures, there's mandatory, conscription, you know, for the Israelite men, all Israelite men. All right, there's mandatory conscription. All right, so it's Amalekites, man. It's strange, man, just to see. They want the glory, but they don't want to do the work. You know.
To disperse a crowd blocking the main road to Jerusalem. In all, some 36 people were arrested. Military service is compulsory for most Israelis. The government's backed moves to end a practice which has exempted tens of thousands of ultra-Orthodox Jews who were in full-time religious.
So it's tens of thousands. All right, that's no small number. All right. So when they're in that state of comfort, they get besides themselves. They want to have a profitable business, but they don't know it comes with a cost. So they're upset that the so-called government is cutting the funding. And they have to go do something. All right. They have to be forced to join the military, which they do not want to do. All right. So this is Isaiah chapter 14, verse 20. So it says, you know what? Let me go to Jeremiah. So, okay. This is going to be from the book of Jeremiah, chapter 49, verse 20. So it says, therefore hear the counsel of the Lord Yahweh, that he had taken against Edom, and his purposes that he had purposed against the inhabitants of Teman. Surely the list of the flock, all right, the so-called Amalekites, running the states of Israel, surely the list of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitations desolate with them. All right, so that's the point there, Akim. And then they want to rule the world. They want to enjoy the comforts of having a successful business. But it's not gonna be like that anymore for them, man. Because this is a time of war, so they have to gear up. They have to get in shape, join the gym, and all that stuff. So all that I wanna, stick with my studies and please, Lord Hashem. All that stuff is not gonna kick it anymore with the politicians because the politicians are under instructions from the bosses to cut the funding, man. You know, so these Amalekites, man, they have to step up. Since they won the birthright, they have to do what needs to be done, but it's all in vain anyway. So this is gonna be from the book of Ezekiel, chapter 28. I'm gonna read from verse 5 to verse 10. Right? Even though this fits America, these Americans are basically the brains of America since they are the so-called pioneers, in business, you know, the banking industry, that's a so-called brainchild, that's their baby. They love finance. They like all that so-called spreadsheet accounting, all that good stuff. you know. So this is Ezekiel chapter 28, verse 5. By thy great wisdom and by thy traffic hast thou increased thy riches, and thine heart is lifted up because of thy riches. So, the richest families on the face of the earth is just Amalekites, man. The Most High give them that blessing on how to turn a business in the red into a business in the black, black and blue. They understand what it means to have a successful business. You can't take that away from them. That's why the Lord Yahushua talks about, that the children of this world are wiser than the children of light. And that applies to the Amalekites, man. They know how to turn, shit into gold, man. All right. Then verse 6 says, therefore, thus said the Lord Yahweh, Shema Shabbat, Shem Kadash, because thou hast set thine heart as a heart of a power, all right, behold, therefore I will bring strangers upon thee, the terrible of the nations, and they shall draw their swords against the beauty of their wisdom, and they shall defy thy brightness. So, the scripture talks about America, but America is just a front for these Amalekites, to make profits, to make money based on fees, taxes, the whole IRS tax code and all that good stuff, whole of the legal profession, they run that stuff. Medical profession, they run that stuff. Real estate, they own it, lock, stock, and barrel. So that's where the Lord Abba Shemashai set it up for them. And then this is Proverbs chapter 20, verse 18. So it says, every purpose is established by counsel, and with good advice make war. All right. So whatever plan these Amalekites are trying to conjure up to start the war with Iran, you know it's gonna backfire. According to the words of the Lord Yahweh Shema Shai, because that's gonna send the agenda for World War III into the fast lane. All right. So that's one thing the folks to understand, and all these historians, they've looked at the facts on the ground. They've looked at the articles and all these publications from this think tank to see that the tension, the stress, the conflict, the it's inevitable, man. They know what's going on. They see all the false flags and all the fake news, man. You know, people people in the news media can't speak up anymore because they're scared. They already took the money, so they, they have to do what they're told. Otherwise, they're gonna be left out there in the cold. All right. So I get to final precept here. This is from the book of Jeremiah, chapter 50, verse 24. All right. So it says, "I have laid a snare for thee, and thou art also taken, O Babylon, and thou was not aware. Thou art found and also caught, because thou hast striven against the Lord Yahweh Shema Shabbat Shema Kwakadash." So these Amalekites, man, the Most High used them and to get America into a tight corner, to basically set up the destruction of America. And it's that simple to see in these last days, man. So it doesn't matter what name they go by, whether they use the so-called Jewish names or the American names or Italian names or African names. It doesn't matter. That their job is to make sure America is in that conflict. Just like America was in the conflict for World War II and World War One. You know, even the so-called Civil War and the Revolutionary Wars. All that stuff, it had to happen because that's how the Lord Yahweh set it up. So all these Amalekites, man, that want to run away from joining the military, man, they're gonna be held, in a tight spot, man. They're gonna use them as an excuse, to to brandish their power. They're gonna crack down on them.
Study. New legislation has not been completed, but authorities are toughening enforcement of the existing law.
Play one more time.
Israeli police have clashed with ultra-Orthodox Jews angry at cuts in funding to their theological schools and a crackdown on those trying to avoid military service. Protests were held across the country. One soldier told the demonstrators what he thought of them. "I haven't seen my wife and baby boy for 2 weeks. Join the army, be a man there, not here." As demonstrators danced in the southern city of Ashdod, water cannon was also used to disperse
what the scriptures talks about, in Zechariah chapter 9, verse 6. Let me see if I could pull it out. Zechariah chapter 9, verse 6. "And the bastard shall dwell in Ashdod, and I will cut off the pride of the Philistines." All right, so that's what it boils down to, man. It's that simple. The more these scholars look into the scriptures and they see all the hints and clues that the Lord Yahweh has given to the elect, they have to agree, man, that these Amalekites in the land of Israel, they're not the Israelites, man. And they have to stick with the facts, all right. So that's the point that I came, back to how back to our shy, double honors and salutations to the elders and apostles of great Mr. rule well. So you could see I can, man, all's not nice, well and dandy with the Amalekites, man. Because not just the men alone that have to join the military, the women have to do it too. All right. So in these last days, man, it's gonna be hard. There's no such thing as I did my time and I'm getting out. Nah, man. When the conflict gets hot, it's gonna be hard for them to quit. There will be no honorable discharge. Honorable discharge and all that stuff. Even during the time United States had to go into Iraq and Afghanistan. Some soldiers didn't get a chance to come back home because they kept prolonging that, their return. They keep adding time to their rotation. They call it what, stop loss. Yeah, so it's hilarious, man. It's crazy. But, just let the Lord Yahweh Shema handle this situation, man. You're not in position to dictate, the course of events. All right, so just let the Lord Yahweh Shai do what he does best. He's the ultimate director. All right, so I came. That was the point there. Just keep your eyes open for these prophecies and make some lessons, man. I defy the Akim. All right, Shalom.